The first article, we've got a couple articles here that we'll be talking about, and it comes from the BBC. It was put out on December 31st of 2021. Bangladesh women-only beach scrapped after social media outcry. So one thing that I have to say is one thing that I really enjoy about being on these panels is learning about some of the things that I would have never have come across if not for I'm looking into these things. Like I did not know that Bangladesh was East Pakistan. And I say this for a reason, in that because we're talking about Muslim women and how they need to dress at the beach, seeing how the culture has changed over the past, say, 50 years is kind of an important little piece about it. So East Pakistan, yes, Pakistan was created in 1947. East Pakistan ended in 1971 when Burma became liberated with the help of India. But that being said, a little bit of backstory. So this beach, it's the longest sea beach, sandy sea beach in the world, 140, I believe, 150 kilometers long. And the government wanted to cordon off a 120, so sorry, it's a 120 kilometer long beach, and the government wanted to cordon off or select 150 meters that would be only available for use with women and children. That didn't go over much with the public. Also, that part of the beach is very popular with tourists. So there's probably some economic parts of it as well. So that being said, Genevieve, you wanted to take us a little bit more and deeper into what you found out about this?
Yeah, I do. So when we're looking at this article and talking about what's specifically going on in Bangladesh, it also very much ties to what's going on in this country, because like the status and the treatment of Muslim women does not exist in a vacuum. Um, Personally, I thought it was really interesting that there was this huge social media backlash about this beach in Bangladesh, because the beach itself was started as an idea at the request of Muslim women who felt shy and uncomfortable and wanted to sort of have their own space to relax. And I saw that in some of the backlash that came about this, people were comparing it to the, you know, Muslim extremists who wanted separate workspaces and like an entirely segregated society based on gender, which tracks with a lot of the more extremist sects of Islam. And I feel like it was really unfair to conflate those two, because, personally, as a woman, I would be really happy to travel to another country and have a space that was there specifically for women, just because this is coming on the heels of horrific violence against women on this beach. And so I felt a little bit conflicted sort of reading about that, and then comparing that to the backlash that just Muslim people in this country have faced. There was another article that was linked as well alongside this from the Huffington Post about a woman in New Jersey sort of, expressing her experiences being a Muslim woman who chooses to wear a burkini, and witnessing other women be faced with so many attacks for just dressing modestly at the beach, saying that it was unhygienic or unclean. And so when we're talking about this, I think it's important to think about how, in this instance in Bangladesh, what it feels like to me is people speaking for a marginalized community and not just listening to what they want, which was a different beach.
Hmm.
It's a complicated topic. There's a whole lot to say about it, and I'm really excited to hear what the rest of you have to say about it as well, because I understand that not everybody agrees with me on this.
Yeah,
Well,
secular Rarity,
secular
you had a little bit different take on this, didn't you?
Yeah, I do. And before I go much further, I do, just for everybody, want to give a quick trigger warning. I am going to connect this to another terrible practice. So, female genital mutilation, or FGM, is something that is often perpetuated by women. It is something that the women themselves who have gone through and who do it to other people, they fully believe that it is you stepping into their culture and their history and taking that over. And when you think about things from that perspective and you say, well, the women were the ones that were claiming that they wanted this beach so that they could feel safe. Um, the problem is, for me, that sounds too close to the women who want to continue FGM because they think it's pure. The reason that, in part, so it's worth saying that the article from the BBC was very short, so there wasn't a bunch to it. But it is worth noting that currently in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in India, in Myanmar, in a lot of these countries in this area, we are seeing a very hardcore right-wing extremist wave. I mean, this is absolutely happening in Pakistan, and the history, as Malty awesomely laid out for us, it very much is still pertinent today in Bangladesh. And just because women said, "Hey, we think this would be better for us." At first, I completely understand why we all say, "Hey, whoa, hang on. They want this beach. They want to be safe. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's listen to them." But if we dig further into this, what we're going to see is that this idea of them of women not being allowed to freely express themselves, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is something that is unfortunately a very, very core tenet to a lot of the individuals that practice Islam. Many people would argue it's very core to Islam itself. And I think there is a huge importance for us, exactly like Genevieve was saying. Those of us that live in the United States need to recognize that Sharia law isn't something that we're dealing with. That this is not something, we should not be outright discriminating against Muslims. That's silliness. That's absolutely ridiculous, people. We should have a problem with the ideology. We're not against people, we're against bad ideas. And again, even though at first we hear this and we say, the women were asking for this, they wanted this. I implore people to think about it in the same perspective, as if there were a group of women asking to continue FGM. Would we feel that that's okay? Would we want that to perpetuate? But I know I come a little bit different on it for sure. But I think it's good to have different viewpoints on this and try to hash that out as humanists.
Yeah,
I'm about to
100%.
totally disagree with you, pal. Sorry. Do you
Please go
remember
ahead, Tim.
some? Yeah, do you remember some episodes ago when I was complaining that American people was trying to give us Latin American people this Latin X thing that was being forced onto us, and I was like, people, if you want to know, if you want to be inclusive with Latin people, ask Latin people and don't try to impose your idea. Don't you try to be offended by other people. I feel the same here. And sorry, but in Japan, there are trains where there are cars that are only for women. And that is not discrimination. And I'm really, really sorry, Secular. But I'm going to extremely disagree with you in here because in this case, women do have a reason to ask for this and it's justified. I'm going to quote the BBC article that we have in the description. And I'm going to go with this. The women requested a dedicated beach section for themselves because they felt shy and insecure in a crowded place. Abu Sufyan, a senior official in Cox's Bazar, told AFP, the move to section off the beach also came after news of a gang rape of a woman in Cox's Bazar last week, shocked the country, sparkling an outcry over women's safety in the area. This is not women asking for segregation, and this is not women saying women are inferior and men deserve to be free of us. No, this is women saying we're scared, we need protection, we deserve better than this. And for the first time ever, this extremely sexist, chauvinist, toxic masculine government is giving women what they want. And people goes against it because they don't see, oh, these are women who need protection. They see, oh, look at that. I have to feel offended because they want to create a Sharia law in that beach and they want to separate women from men. That's how we feel it.
well,
I may be totally wrong. Sorry, Martin.
well, yeah, not just men. I guess there's some ambiguity. So I mean, the rule of dress is women should dress modestly. There is no written place where it outlines this is the type of modesty that we mean. This is the type of covering that we mean. Sometimes it is full dress, only the face, hands are visible. Some it's only the eyes. Some it's only hair. And each sect of Muslim culture is has their own ideas. I don't want this to, when I was looking at the other articles that are associated with this, I saw some that I thought seemed a little bit like victim blaming. Did anybody else get
Yes.
that as well?
And that's exactly,
Yeah, the ones about,
if,
yeah.
if I could just because that's exactly kind of where I come at this. And one of the people that comes to my mind right now is a woman named Anita Hill. And if you don't know who Anita Hill is and you're in the United States, I'm not going to tell you. I want you to look it up because she's an important person. And I know I'm going to butcher this quote, but she was asked about rape. She was asked about discrimination of women, misogyny, these terrible things that still exist, and is very much a part of this story in Bangladesh. And I agree with you, Teo, that was a terrible, terrible thing that occurred. But what Anita Hill said was, you can teach the women, and then you can teach the men. But if you teach the men, you don't need to teach the women. The problem is not the problem is not that we need a safe space for women. The problem is a bad ideology that permeates a society. And are we letting these, why not just step up police enforcement? Why not just stop people from doing the rapes? Why do we have to segregate women and put them in a bubble to keep them away from other people? Shouldn't the men just be better?
Can't we do both?
Yeah,
Sorry, G.
no, please. I just if I could just chime in on this really quickly. I mean, I 100% agree with you. Like, of course, I hate how, as a woman my entire life I'm told, "Oh, don't go out dressed like this. Don't go to this bar. Don't do this." It's like, "Well, why should I have to worry about this?" But the reality is that we do. What you're talking about, I 100% agree on. Like, we need a massive shift in ideology and perspective. We need men across cultures, to be quite honest, to be better. But until that happens, I see no problem with us just taking measures to prevent things by saying, hey, in the case of Bangladesh, which is a far different culture than what I deal with here in America, if women say, hey, we're scared and we're worried and we just want to go for a fucking swim, yeah, give them a section of the beach if that's what they genuinely want. I wouldn't conflate that with, female genital mutilation. I almost would want to say that's a bit of a slippery slope fallacy, because we're not even talking about in the same way it was compared by some of the dissidents against this. They compared it to the men requesting separate workplaces based on the ideology of men are better than women. This is women just saying, hey, I'm scared to go about my day, and I would really appreciate it if we could just have a space where I don't even have to think about it. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that, Teo, you brought up a really good point, which is sort of the whole center of my beliefs about this, is that we Eurocentric whoever have this tendency to impose our ideas or speak for other groups without just giving them the benefit of doubt and giving them the dignity to speak for themselves and be listened to. But and I will also say, secular, you're 100% right, because at the same time we can't take cultural relativism to this extreme where we just allow anything to happen. We should never allow FGM to occur without some backlash. That is a human rights violation. But we
Mhm.
we need to be we need to be respectful. We need to treat people with dignity, and we need to allow things to be heard with some nuance.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those situations in light of the culture. If you know how to change the ideology of all of the men in Bangladesh or across the world to where this isn't an occurrence, then fuck yeah, dude, let's do it. That would be amazing. But if that's not
Or-
going to happen, then we need to be pragmatic. It's not about just holding to our ideologies, it's about thinking about the lives that are impacted. And
Yeah,
that's
not
really just
only
what I think.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, we have more than one problem in here. Right now, we need a solution to these women being raped by gangs. So that beach is a solution. But yeah, the general solution should be changing the ideology. But we can do both. We cannot just decide, no, 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 let's not protect the victims. Let's first change the whole system. Let's go
My,
for the immediate one. And
my
this one was, oh, sorry, secular?
no, you're just fine. I was cutting you off. It's just that my issue is I don't think that this is protecting people. I don't think it protects anybody by doing this. I think this plan of action was one that ultimately perpetuates a system where women will be hurt more. And that's why I was against it. Now I could be incorrect on that, of course, and I think we've done a really good job of laying out different viewpoints. My only suggestion for people would be to look up a phenomenal activist by the name of Masia Alinejad. She is wonderful, and she collects stories and videos of women being harassed for wearing hijab improperly, not in the right place, whatever it is. But these stories need to be heard, and we need to continue having these conversations respectfully, even if we disagree, because I think that's the only way we get any progress on the matter, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you come from a nice place. Oh, Marty?
there's a
Sorry, Malty.
there his that's okay. Moving a little bit on into like the Huffington Post article, where they're talking about how clothing or swimwear that is sun safe or modest, full coverings, is something that is becoming more available to women. So that's, you don't have to wear a one piece that shows all your legs and all your arms, all your cleavage. You can actually at this point in time, Muslim or Jewish women, or even I think they were saying that the Mormons were actually looking towards buying some of these sun safe apparel that so the attention is where it's supposed to be, having fun swimming, and it is more about that and less about showing off what maybe you don't want to show off. Yeah, so I did see that there is some examples of people wanting to wear, either for religious reasons, modesty reasons, or sun protection reasons, swimwear that is more covering. I don't find there should be a problem with that. However, there have gotten backlash from some swimming pools or beaches. People have here in the U.S., it seems like, have been somewhat pushing back about modest swimwear. Well, why is that?
It must be terrible to be a woman, because I know that as a Latino, I'm whiter than most people, so I get sunburned really easily. And I always go with long sleeves, long pants, and a hat to the beach. And I've never been told anything. So it must be awful to be a woman in the USA. And if you go dressed like that, you're going to be harassed because you are too modest or something like that.
Yeah, and I think there's a part of it that's just the same old song and dance, right? Which is something's different to us. It's outside of our norm. But I also think, and it's important that we point this out, the anti-Muslim bigotry that exists, you guys. Like we may not agree that Muhammad is the final prophet, but that in no way, shape, or form is now freedom to just discriminate against people. Why are we kicking somebody out of a pool for being completely covered? If they were completely naked, like, okay, if they just completely stripped down entirely, then I get that. But that's a problem. Like, hey, there are kids around. What are you doing? But
these are that's a swimwear that is
right.
Made out of the same material as all other swimwears made out of. It's not like they're stripping down to their underwear and jumping in. It's which I've seen people do public places.
We have beaches for that.
Yeah.
Malty's been skinny dipping, I bet, you guys.
So
Is that true, Malty?
After the show.
Yeah.
After the show.
Yeah, that'll be an after show. What I think is really, and I didn't even put this on my notes. This is really something that just came to me now. So, I lived in California for years. I am a surfer and I lived on a really cold beach. My wetsuit is rated for 40 degrees. It is a thick thing that goes right up to my chin. I have booties. I have been swimming on a beach covered head to toe. And it's not a problem. It's not a problem when I do it. It's not a problem when any of us do it. If you've got a surfboard, if you seem like an American, it's interesting that the criticisms, because people don't want to say the thing that they mean, they'll say, oh, that's unhygienic, that's disgusting. It's not at all. I mean, especially in a public pool. I mean, how many kids piss in a public pool? Let's be honest. Like, nobody cares about any of that. It has nothing to do with the clothing. It has everything to do with the context. It's that they are not white Americans, or they're not Christian. They are objectively different. It goes hand in hand with this Christian nationalism that we've seen. It goes hand in hand with this fear about the great replacement, that white people will be a minority. It's absurd, and it's so dangerous, which is why I speak out against Christianity, because that's not being spoken out against. I often don't speak too much on Islam because it's not something that impacts me particularly. It's not something that I have a lot of experience with. There are a lot of incredible ex-Muslims who I fear for, because there is a lot of danger. There is a lot of harm in that ideology. As a secular activist, I will always speak out for people to question their own beliefs, to think critically. I hope that we can get to a place beyond religion. But in the meantime, I'm not afraid of the dangers of the Islamic ideology. I am afraid for my Muslim neighbors from Pakistan to go to the beach without being harassed, or to get on a bus without being stabbed, or go to a bar without being shot. This is the reality that we're facing. And it's ironic. It's so disgustingly ironic that these Christian conservatives who are so ready to be persecuted and fight for their nation are the ones that are being so hateful and bigoted to another religious group.
Yeah. Secular Rarity, do you have any final thoughts? And then Teo, I'll have you close it out for this segment.
I honestly think Genevieve made some fantastic points, especially at the end right there. Look, if what you're concerned about in a public pool is the hygiene of somebody else's swimwear, you might need to rethink your priorities, my friend. So,
and finally, I think that we are checking two different things. I mean, the things that are happening in the USA, it's terrible. It shouldn't happen. G's explain everything. And I know that Secular is coming from a very good point on what he said about the thing in Bangladesh. I just want to really quickly mention that over there in Bangladesh, violence against women and child marriage is still a huge problem. So when they give women this special beach, this is a step up, not a step down, as people saw it when they started criticizing it. And obviously, the situation in Bangladesh is totally different from the USA. So I totally understand that secular comes from a good point on his heart, good side on his heart, but I think that we only disagree because of that. It's a different perspective over there, and that's it. You're awesome, guys.
Okay. Thank you very
Love you
much.
guys.